Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Mystical. Today I'm bringing you a video going over everything you need to know about Mistweaver Monk going into Season 1 of Shadowlands. As far as PvP goes, everything, we're going to start from the beginning with the races. We're going to get into things like Covenant, Soulbind, Conduits, best Legendaries, rotation. And with that said, let's jump right into it. So when you want to create your monk, you're going to have a choice between Alliance or Horde, and you're going to, all of them have different races and different racials that come with it. So if you're going to choose Alliance, your best race is going to be Human. They have an ability called the Will to Survive, which is a 3-minute cooldown and allows you to break out of stuns, which gives you the option to run the Relentless Trinket, which means CC on you is reduced, which we'll get into. But Human is definitely the best. If you don't want to go Human, Dwarf and Dark Iron Dwarf are both really good, especially when Ferals, Warlocks, Rogues, things with bleeds and dots are really good. So are Dark Iron Dwarves and Dwarves. If you don't want to go that route, Night Elf is my favorite Alliance race. I just think it's a lot of fun to play with Shadow Meld. But overall, the best race is going to be Human for Alliance. If you want to go Horde, far and away, you're going to want to be Orc. I don't even want to suggest any other race because of how good Orc is. Orc has a passive called Hardiness, which reduces the stun durations on you by 25%. So it's just the best. You could see right here, resistant to stun effects. It just reduces the duration of them on you. So my main is Horde, but if I was to level an Alliance tune, it would be Human. So once you've chosen your race and you've leveled up all the way to 60, you're gonna have to know a few things. First off, your stat priority is Versatility, Mastery. Those are your two best stats. The Versatility is gonna help with increasing your survivability, so it increases the damage and healing you do, and then reduces the damage you take by X amount. So it's really good for helping you survive. And then Mastery is really good because it just gives you additional healing on top of the already strong healing that we have. So that's why Verse Mastery is going to be your go-to. So after you know your stat priority, the next thing you're going to want to know is what are your best talents. So we're going to go row by row, and I'll just let you know which situations are the best and which ones you probably won't be choosing. So in the first tier, Mistrap, no surprise, is definitely going to be your go-to for PvP. It increases Enveloping Mist duration and increases its healing. And Enveloping Mist, even though you don't use it too often, it's still your best hot and your best heal. So you definitely want to increase the healing it does and the duration of it. In the second tier, Chi Torpedo is just the best for mobility and increasing your mobility. Roll isn't really long, it doesn't roll far enough if you want to push in for crowd control. Tiger's Lust, unfortunately, I really like Tiger's Lust, but the yard, it's just so short, 20-yard range on it, which means you're going to have to basically push into the enemy team to use on a teammate. It's good for yourself, but I still prefer Chi Torpedo. Celerity is good, but I think the distance you get with Chi Torpedo is more worth it because it allows you to push in one Chi Torpedo, get the leg sweeper in cap, and then roll a port out. It just gives you that much more mobility. In the third tier, I haven't changed out of Mana Tea, at least for PvP. I haven't changed out of Mana Tea. It reduces the mana cost of your spells by 50%. A well-timed Mana Tea is very important for not running out of mana. You primarily want to use it when you're going to use Enveloping Mist, at least one or two of them. So if you use Mana Tea, Thunder Focus Tea, and Enveloping Mist to heal, it saves so much mana. So you want to make sure you use it right before Enveloping Mist. It's also off the GCD, which is really nice. So you could just Renewing Mist, Mana Tea, Thunder Focus Tea. They're both off the GCD, and then use an Enveloping Mist or two, as long as Mana Tea is active. If it's not active, you're gonna run out of mana very quickly. In the fourth tier, I get asked this quite a bit actually, and Ring of Peace is by far just the overall better choice in threes at least. There's not many times you're going to be able to get a Song of Chi off. So Ring of Peace is really good for interrupting healers, interrupting, Dark Soul Warlocks with Chaos Bolt or Unstable Affliction. And it's good for peeling yourself if enemies, especially melee, are coming at you. You can just Ring of Peace them away. Song of Chi I use in twos very often, especially versus casters, where they can't really punish you not running Ring of Peace. If you don't run Ring of Peace versus a Windwalker, Rogues, Ferals, basically any melee, they're just going to tunnel you down after you port, and they could easily kill you. Song of Chi versus Balanced Druids, Frost Mages, Fire Mages, Casters, pretty much Shadow Priest. They don't have a lot of interrupts, and they can't really punish you for running Song of Chi. So I use Song of Chi in twos versus Casters, and then any other time is Ring of Peace. In this tier, and I think this is the 5th tier, I normally play healing elixirs, but in 2s, or if there's some kind of dispellable thing that I could reverse, I use diffuse magic. So for example, in BFA, a lot of people played the claw trinket. If you diffuse magic, it actually reverses back to whoever used it. So that's when that was really good. But for the most part, I play healing elixirs. In 2s, where dampening already starts, it's probably better to run dampen harm or diffuse magic, just because the healing elixirs just from the start are doing less healing. So in 2s, probably diffuse magic or dampen harm for melee, diffuse magic for casters, and in 3s, I'll normally play healing elixirs. In the 6th tier, statue is really good passive healing. If you're playing against a team that can CC you, play statue. Versus pretty much anything else, I really like Chi-Ji. It doesn't cost a lot of mana. It does a good amount of healing, and it makes you immune to slows. So if you're scared you're gonna get tunneled down by, I don't know, DK Windwalker or DK Demon Hunter, something where they have a lot of slows, you can play Chi-Ji, use it as a freedom, and then it does a decent amount of healing. It really does do a decent amount. Plus you get the free enveloping mist from it. So it's a pretty good talent. But overall, Jade Servant Statue does the most healing, because again, it's not a 3-minute cooldown. This is a 3-minute cooldown, so you use this maybe once a game, and yeah, statue just does overall more healing. And then the last tier, it's always gonna be Focus Thunder. It gives you 2 charges of your Thunder Focus Tea, which means almost every time you're gonna use Thunder Focus Tea, and you get 2 charges of free Vivify, because Thunder Focus Tea makes your Vivify cost no mana. So you just get 2 free Vivifies, and that's another way that you can conserve your mana. And not run out of mana quickly, especially when Mana Tea is on cooldown. So for PvP talents, not very much has changed for PvP talents. I don't think we got any new ones, so this shouldn't be too bad. Chrysalis, I've been using pretty much every game because we lost traits like Burst of Life, and it makes our life. If we didn't run Chrysalis, our Life Cocoon would be a 2-minute cooldown. So I kind of like just having the shorter cooldown on Life Cocoon. I think, the faster we get it, the better. So it's 1.6 minute cooldown, almost a minute and a half. So it's definitely longer than what it was in BFA, but it's still manageable. Now, as far as these last 2, these are dependent on what you're queuing into. So if you're queuing into double melee, I would probably play Grapple Weapon and Short Port pretty much every time. There's always even if you don't think the team is going to go you, there's always a chance that they go you. So that's why I play Short Port. I think it's really important. And then Grapple Weapon is really good for disarming. If you don't plan on disarming, you can play Zen Focus Tea if you don't want to get kicked. So either one of those options is fine. If you're playing against a double caster team, I would definitely play probably Counteract to Magic and then probably Zen Focus Tea. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you're playing against a Resto Shaman, Resto Shaman Shadow Priest or something like that, or Disc Priest Ellie, Disc Priest Enhance, anything with double purges or with a mage, you're gonna want to play Refreshing Breeze instead of Counteract Magic, because they can spam purge your Renewing Mist off and you won't get any value out of Counteract Magic. So that's why Refreshing Breeze is good versus teams with multiple purges. And that's pretty much it. The very niche time when you use Healing Sphere is versus Shadow Priest, Affliction Warlock. This is actually probably just versus Affliction Warlocks. You're going to want to play Healing Sphere. This is very, very powerful versus Affliction Warlocks, as it will dispel the Unstable Affliction or any dots that they have, and you won't get chunked down for half your health after you dispel the Unstable Affliction. So you always want to play Healing Spheres versus Affliction Warlocks, and then outside of that, if it was any other caster, it would probably be Counteract to Magic or Refreshing Breeze. But yeah, those are the times when for those PvP talents in those different situations. So let's talk about legendaries real quick, and it's very important to get the best one because it does so much healing, and the best one you're going to want is Tear of Mourning. This drops from the boss Sludge Fest in the newest raid, so you're not going to be able to get it until the raid unlocks. But what this does is, when you cast Enveloping Mist or Vivify on a target that already has Renewing Mist, there's a chance it'll spread to another target, so it's already increasing our healing and saving us mana, especially if it spreads. And then on top of that, your Vivify healing through Renewing Mist is increased by 20%. And then when you Enveloping Mist, it also heals allies with Renewing Mist on them for 20% of the healing. So what this means is, if I Renewing Mist on this Boomy, and I have Renewing Mist on the Shadow Priest, and I need to heal myself, this is going to heal both of these targets for the Enveloping Mist, and if I Vivify, it's going to heal them for even more. So this legendary easily does top maybe 3 healing in an arena, and it should be your #1 go-to legendary to get for overall healing output. It is crazy. You'll play this 99% of the games. The Tear of Mourning is just too good. So you do have to PvE for it, but it is worth it. It's 100% worth it. I don't know if it's just on like heroic, normal. Okay, you can get a normal, heroic, mythic. So find a normal run for when the raid comes out, and then just try to get it as much as you can. You know, it's worth it. If you don't want to get that legendary, or if you already have it and you're looking for another one, Escape from Reality is the next best legendary you can get. This gives Transcendence. It allows you to use it again within 10 seconds without cooldown. So if I port, there's my port down. You're going to use this legendary versus double melee teams that you feel like are going to be pushing or focusing you. So I can port, and then I can port again. So you could port twice in 10 seconds, which is amazing. It is so nice. Extra mobility is always great. This might actually be useful in 2s a lot, especially if warriors are as good as they are now. So keep that in mind. In 2s, this might be the best because, you know, you're starting in dampening, and Tear of Mourning is all about healing, so it won't be that good in dampening. So, and this will help you kite a lot more. And yeah, that's Escape from Reality. Those are the 2 best legendaries you can get. If you're looking for a third, this one's okay. The Swift Sure Wraps, it's okay. During Chi Torpedo, you're immune to roots and snares, but it doesn't actually dispel the roots or snares on you, so it doesn't really make it too worth it. The Ancient Teachings of the Monastery would have been good, but you have to use Essence Font to get the buff, and Essence Font costs too much mana. Any of these other ones, this Sephuz's Proclamation is also good because it reduces a CC on you by 10%, but it can only happen every 30 seconds. It also increases your versatility, I'm pretty sure. Increases all your secondary stats, yeah. So that's pretty good, but it can only happen once every 30 seconds, so you don't get the full value of the whole game. It is Verse Mastery, or you can put Verse Mastery on pretty much all of these, so yeah, those are the best legendaries. You would definitely want Tear of Mourning. You definitely want Escape from Reality. And if you want to find a third, Swift Shore Wraps or Sephuz's Proclamation, those are probably the 2 last ones you want to get. Now, the biggest decision you have to make when you get to level 60 is which Covenant you want to choose. Your Covenant is tied to Soulbinds and 1 or 2 Conduits that you're going to have to choose between. Now, there are 2 Covenants that have been the front runners for Mistweaver, but there's only been one that has been the best throughout the entire beta that I believe is the best for Mistweaver, and that is Venthyr. So Venthyr gives you 2 abilities and a really good Soulbind ability. The first ability that you get is Fallen Order. This is a 3-minute cooldown. It opens up a portal and it summons a little guy every 3 seconds and they will heal, DPS, and tank. Tanking doesn't matter, but they'll still be spawned. And the healing output from this ability is just incredible. If the primary use for this will be right before you get put into crowd control and you get polyed, for example, and you use this, your little guy is going to start healing, and the healing one will throw out an enveloping mist every once in a while. See, this isn't mine. These soothing mists are not mine. I have not put a statue down, and they should be throwing out an enveloping mist, or they'll be targeting somebody. They'll throw out an enveloping mist occasionally, and then you also get the Door of Shadows, which is more mobility for us. And what's very cool about this is that it's on a 1-minute cooldown, and it's on the Shadow School. So if you get kicked on it, you can actually cast all of your abilities. Now, the second Covenant that you can choose 100%, if you want to be tankier and you don't mind having less mobility, you can 100% choose Kyrian. Kyrian is a fine Covenant to choose with also decent Soulbind. So if you want to have additional mastery from Weapons of Order and you want to summon the elf that gives you the vials that will heal you, 100% you can choose Kyrian. I don't think there's a wrong choice between Kyrian and Venthyr. I think they're both equally good. I just like Venthyr more because of the Fallen Order Covenant ability, and I really like the port. I'm a huge fan, and then the Soulbinds that turn it into a Disorient, so I'm a huge fan of it. But with that said, if you want to be tankier, by all means, go Kyrian. So while you're questing with your Covenant, you're going to unlock access to different Soulbinds. These are little people that unlock different paths, and they give you certain passives and abilities. Now, luckily for Mistweaver, the very first Soulbind, which is unlocked relatively quickly, is our best one for Venthyr. I will also show one for Kyrian really quickly, but I'm going to do Venthyr more in depth because I really think it's the better choice. So the first one is Thrill Seeker. While in combat, you gain stacks of it, and at 40, it's consumed and it gives you haste. So it's really, you're not really choosing Nagia for this. It's just a really good passive to have. Now, to unlock the next ability, you need to put socket in what's called a conduit. So a conduit is, you could think of them as gems, but they have there's different types of them. There's finesse, potency, and I think there's endurance. Yeah, finesse, potency, endurance. There's 3 different types. So you can only socket one, the exact one into each one. So this one is asking for a potency conduit. So you put a potency conduit into the socket. Now the best one for this is going to be coordinated. No, it's going to be imbued reflections. So what this does is it makes Fallen Order deal 87% more damage and healing. It already does by far. I've only used it once in arena, and it was my top healing in like a 5-minute game. So that's going to be your 100% one of the best potency conduits you can use. And then this will unlock the Agent of Chaos, which is what makes Door of Shadows disorient all nearby enemies. It's for 3 seconds in PvP, but the good thing is that it does not DR with your in-cap. So you can Door of Shadows, in-cap, leg sweep every minute. It is amazing. You would be surprised with the additional crowd control will net you wins. It's amazing. I love it. And again, if you get kicked on Door of Shadows, it's the Shadow School, and you can just keep casting. It's great. So this next one, I believe, is asking for a finesse conduit. And this, I really like Lingering Numbness. What this does is when paralysis ends, your target's movement speed is reduced by 96% for 5 seconds. So this is great. I've tested it. It's really good versus monks, priests, and pallies. Not so good versus druids because they can just shapeshift the slow. But pretty much what I've done is I've used paralysis on healers when they're like behind the pillar, and then they're slowed for 96% slow on them, and they're trying to wall around the pillar, and then just ring a piece them back behind the pillar. And I love it. It's so great, and definitely one of my favorite finesse conduits. This one, you loot 20% more infused rubies, and I don't know what that does. I think it's more like a covenant thing than anything else. And then it's going to ask you, I believe this is for a endurance conduit, and I am a huge fan of fortifying ingredients. And what this does is when you use fortifying brew, it's fortifying ingredients, I went over the wrong one. Fortifying ingredients, when you use fortifying brew, it puts a shield on you for 28.8% of your maximum health for 15 seconds. So again, fortifying brew is a 3-minute cooldown now, so this just makes it even stronger. If you don't like that, you could probably go with grounding breath just to save mana. When you cast on yourself, it does a chance to refund it and increases the healing on yourself. That's fine too, but I'm a really huge fan of fortifying ingredients, so I'll probably just run with that. And then finally, the whole reason why you choose Venthyr and you choose a Soulbind is familiar predicaments. The duration of incoming interrupt, snare, and root effects are reduced by 25%. The biggest weakness, monks have 2 weaknesses. They have 3, but mostly 2. Interrupts, because we have to channel Soothing Mist all the time, and dying in a stun. Now this doesn't help us survive stuns, but actually the fortifying ingredients kind of does, but this will help us with getting locked out, and will be a little bit less punishing for us. So to get that, we need to put in another, I think, finesse, another potency conduit, and I think far and away, I think Jade Bond, yeah, Jade, no, it's this one. They all look the same. They all have chi and mist in it. The Resplendent Mist, Gust of Mist, has a 30% chance to 120% more healing. Is just like far and away the second best potency conduit you can get. This increases our healing by so much. It can proc multiple times in a row. Our healing, our mastery is just crazy, especially since it's one of our best stats. And so we're going to put that in, and then we just get the familiar predicaments, and this is going to be the path you're going to want to take. I really like this. I really like the additional crowd control you get with Agent of Chaos, and obviously the familiar predicaments. It's just by far my favorite passive you can have. Now, very quickly, if you do choose Kyrian, which is fine, I'm just not going to go as in depth. You're going to want to just use the Forge Light Prime Mechanicos, because he has really, really good abilities. So he has this 35% one. When you reduce it below 35% health, your vial goes off, which is great, but the problem is that it has a 3-minute cooldown, so it doesn't happen too often, but it can still happen. I think you're going to want this one. This one's fine. Fortifying Ingredients is really good. And then you're going to want the Sparkling Drift Globe Core, because when you drop below 35% health again, you'll be able to stun everybody around you. So if you choose Kyrian, this is what you're probably going to want to choose. Again, I'm dead set on Vent. I've been dead set on Venthyr since they first let us have access to it. And as far as conduits go, again, there's 3 different versions. There's potency, finesse, and there should be endurance somewhere. Yeah. So the top potency conduits are going to be the Imbued Reflections, which makes Fallen Order even better. And then you're going to want Resplendent Mist, which increases their Gust of Mist healing. Those are your top 2 for potency conduits. For finesse conduits, Lingering Numbness is by far my favorite, and you can follow that up with the Swift Transference, and this will increase your movement speed after you port, which I really like. I actually might swap between those two. I like having mobility, and then you're gonna finally have an endurance. And my top 2 for that are definitely Fortifying Ingredients, and then Harm Denial is really good too. The Expels Harm healing is increased by, I think final rank is 60%. Yeah, so that's just absolutely insane. It does really good overall healing. So highly recommend those conduits for endurance. So a bit of an overview. Venthyr is absolutely my favorite Covenant, and I will absolutely be using it as soon as I'm able to get access to it. And this is the path you're going to want to take. I did a Soulbind overview. If you choose Kyrian, this is the path you're going to want to take. Again, they're both really good. This one's going to make you a little bit more tanky with the Forged Life Filter and the Sparkling Drift Globe Core, but Venthyr is going to give you more crowd control with Agent of Chaos, and it helps with always getting kicked. If you watch the AWC, pretty much the only times teammates would die is if the Mistweaver got kicked. So again, that's the overview of Covenants, Conduits, and Soulbinds. So now that you have your talents, you have your Covenant, you have your Soulbinds, you got a few Conduits in there, you now enter the arena and you want to know how to heal. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what I do, what I'm thinking about in an arena match from start to finish, and hopefully give you guys a better understanding of what's going on. So when the arena game starts, first and foremost, put your port down. That's number 1. Port down, statue up. Those are the first 2 things you do at all times. And always try to remember, when you port, try to reset your port. Again, it's definitely situational, but monks are very, very fragile right now. So if you have a really bad port, teams can swap to you and kill you in a stun easily. So keep that in mind when you forget to reset your port. And of course, keep your statue up. Now, something to note about statue: if you're playing against a team that has stealthies and you don't know who they're going to open on, if you think they're going to open on your paladin right here, start casting Soothing Mist, and your statue will actually start casting Soothing Mist on your teammate. And then even if you stop, they will keep going. So the passive healing, even if you get crowd control, is kind of nice. If you think they're going to open you, start channeling Soothing Mist on yourself, and the statue will start channeling Soothing Mist on you. So that's just a little small thing. It helps you get passive healing in the opener if you get crowd controlled or if you get stunned and opened on. So the most important thing, your whole rotation is pretty much based around 2 abilities: Soothing Mist and Renewing Mist. And then Vivify. All right, 3. There's 3. Soothing Mist, Renewing Mist, and Vivify. Those are your 3 most important abilities to use. And the first thing you should do, number 1 priority, keep Renewing Mist up on as many people as possible. Never have 2 charges of Renewing Mist. Always have 1 recharging, and just make sure you get as many out as you can. Now, there's a reason for this, and that's because of Vivify. Now, what Vivify does is it heals your primary target. It'll heal the target you're targeting, but it will also heal your teammates that have Renewing Mist on them. So I channel Soothing Mist, Vivify, and it'll heal the target and anyone else that has Renewing Mist. So that's why it's so good and so important. That's why, from the healing of it, that's why people don't really use Surging Mist anymore, because Vivify does as much healing as Surging Mist, and it also has some AoE healing with it, which is important. Now, once you get it down that you keep your Renewing Mist up, you're going to start seeing that you got Thunder Focus Tea. Now, Thunder Focus Tea is the core of Mistweaver healing. You have your primary abilities: Renewing Mist, Vivify, Soothing Mist, but Thunder Focus Tea is what makes it so strong. So if you hover over Thunder Focus Tea, it has 4 things that it can do. If you use Thunder Focus Tea and then Enveloping Mist, it'll instantly heal the target for X amount. If you use Renewing Mist, it'll increase the duration by 10 seconds. If you use Vivify, it'll cost no mana, And if you use Rising Sun Kick, the cooldown is reduced by 9 seconds. In PvP, for the most part, you're only going to use Enveloping Mist and Vivify. That's pretty much it on Thunder Focus Tea. You obviously will be using Renewing Mist, but for Thunder Focus Tea, you're going to use Enveloping Mist and Vivify. So when do you do that? It really depends on the situation. So if your teammates, you got your Renewing Mist out, and your teammates, they're at 60%, 70% health, you don't really see much incoming damage. All you're going to do is you're going to do a Thunder Focus Tea, you're going to do a Vivify, and a Vivify. Boom. Now I'll talk about it later, how to manage your mana, but that costs no mana, and you pretty much just topped your teammate. Again, with the talent Focus Thunder, you have 2 charges of Thunder Focus Tea. So it's going to give you it's going to empower your next 2 abilities. So that's very important. Now, let's just say your teammate is at 20% health. You just left crowd control, you just left the stun. It doesn't even matter. They're low on health. What you're going to want to do is you're probably going to want to use Thunder Focus Tea and Enveloping Mist for the instant healing plus the hot from Enveloping Mist. The problem is that it costs a lot of mana. So you need to use Mana Tea beforehand, especially if you kind of need to plan it out, but if you're going to be using 1 or 2 Enveloping Mists, you definitely want to use Mana Tea beforehand, or else you're going to fall behind in mana very quickly. Trust me, it is brutal. It's not fun. So what you kind of want to do is my first instinct is always Renewing Mist, because Renewing Mist is on the GCD and Mana Tea and Thunder Focus Tea are off the GCD. So what I'll do, if I'm coming out of CC and I see that, let's just say Flamagio is low, I'll Renewing Mist, Mana Tea, Thunder Focus Tea, Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist. So now I have Mana Tea up, I have another charge of Thunder Focus Tea, and I'm Soothing Misting, and I'll go for a second Vivify. So that's kind of what I do if somebody is low on health. Now, outside of those healing spells, again, you have your core, you have your Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, Vivify. Those are kind of your core healing spells. But we do have Expel Harm, which was a new ability that was added. And I just want to say, this is instant. This is instant. So if you're kiting away from somebody and they're running after you, you can just use Expel Harm and heal yourself up, which is great. But you can also use it while channeling Soothing Mist. And when you heal somebody, if you use Expel Harm while channeling Soothing Mist on somebody, it'll heal you as well. So if I'm healing Flamagio again and I use Expel Harm, it'll heal myself. So keep that in mind. But again, if you're kind of kiting someone out, you could just use Expel Harm while you're running. Just run away, Expel Harm, which is great. Invoke Yulon, she's been bugged for ever, 3 months now, so it's kind of hard to tell. I can use her. Maybe she'll get some healing out. Oh, there we go. She has a decent amount of healing. She's a 3-minute cooldown, and it's really not bad. It's a 3-minute cooldown, and she does some good AoE healing. I wouldn't rely on it before you get put into crowd control, but use this when your team's obviously starting to get rotted down, maybe versus Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest, and you guys are kind of clumped up together. I would highly recommend using Yulon. It's a decent healing cooldown. Outside of that, I'm trying to see any other cooldowns we have. Healing Elixirs. Oh yes, this is a big one, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. But Healing Elixirs, you should use on yourself. Obviously, it's on yourself, but use whenever you're taking damage. These cost no mana. No mana at all. So if you're taking some damage, you're taking some rot damage from Shadow Priest, they're not really on you, but you're taking some damage, you don't have to use Vivifies on yourself. Put a Renewing Mist on yourself and double Healing Elixir or just 1 Healing Elixir, and you'll be fine. Dispel the dots on you and you will be more than fine. So just keep that in mind. They cost no mana, really help with just keeping your mana at a decent percentage. And then Essence Font you never used. You can take that off your bar. Finally, I think the last healing ability is going to be Fallen Order. So again, I talked about it with the Covenant section, but this opens a portal for 24 seconds. Okay, every 3 seconds it'll summon a little minion guy, a little guy, and they will heal, tank, and do damage, which is great. And then they will normally, the healing one should cast Enveloping Mist. So if I throw an Enveloping Mist, there should be one. I should see another one or something. They're kind of random, but it does a lot of healing. And this is important because this is a 3-minute cooldown, so you really don't want to waste it. And what you can do is if you're playing against a setup comp, let's say you're playing against Jungle, which is Feral, Hunter, RMP, you know, Mage Lock, stuff like that where they have a lot of crowd control. If you use Fallen Order before they get a polymorph on you, your teammates will be fine. They will be 100% fine when you're in that polymorph. So try not to waste the Fallen Order. The great thing about this is that you don't even need to cast anything. You know, you press Fallen Order and they just go. They just heal, they do damage, it's great. So it's one of those abilities where the best time is kind of when you're in trouble, you know. It does, now I do want to say it does take 3 seconds for the first one to come out. So just make sure, you know, you can't use on someone that's at 1% health. It's not going to keep them alive. But, you know, right before crowd control, even if people are like 50% health, it's just overall just a really good cooldown. And I'm trying to think of any other healing abilities. Oh, of course, Life Cocoon. Yeah, so this is our primary healing cooldown, which is Life Cocoon. It's a 1.6 minute cooldown with Chrysalis, so if you're using that, it's gonna be 1.6. If you're not, it's gonna be a 2-minute cooldown. And it's pretty straightforward. You just press it when someone's about to die. That's pretty much it. There's nothing kind of crazy about it. It's 1.6 minute cooldown now. It's not a very short cooldown because we lost the Burst of Life trait from BFA. So you can't just throw this out willy-nilly now. You really have to, someone better be dying when you use this cooldown. So yeah, just use it when someone's at low health. Ideally, if again versus setup comps, you would use Life Cocoon right before a crowd control on you. So right before a polymorph to negate a go would be great. And that's kind of just the highest skill cap for it. It's just using it right before crowd control. I think I forgot Revival, but Revival is really good versus every team, not just dot teams. Versus dot teams like Shadow Priest teams, Warlock teams, you want to make sure they actually have their dots out before you Revival because it'll dispel everything. Especially versus Shadow Priest, because if you dispel their dots before or right before they're in Void form, they're going to have to spend their time casting while in Void form, which is not something they want to do. Versus melee teams and teams that really don't have a lot of CC, this is still fine for a really good heal. Something I do want to note with Revival though is if let's just say this is a pillar and my port is a teammate. If my teammate is in a Hodge and I'm behind a pillar, you can Revival as long as they're in range of the heal, and that will dispel the Hodge. So as long as they're in range, it'll dispel it and you'll be fine. And I think that's it for the healing rotation. Again, a little bit of an overview, just in case. I don't think I was going too fast, but feel free to let me know. I'm just trying to, whatever comes to my mind, I'm trying to talk about. Again, make sure you keep Renewing Mist on as many people as possible to make use of your legendary Tear of Mourning. Which obviously does additional healing to people with Renewing Mist on them through Enveloping Mist and Vivify. Once you got the Renewing Mist out, then you're going to be using Vivifies for single target healing. Expel Harm has less mana than Vivify, so it's basically a Vivify that costs less mana. It's really nice. And you know, once you're done with Expel Harm, you can start using your Vivifies, get some Renewing Mist out. Maybe it swaps with Tear of Mourning, so you just keep getting your Renewing Mist out. And that's pretty much it. That's the rotation. When someone's in trouble, you know, drop them really low. Thunder Focus Tea and Enveloping Mist. With Mana Tea up is really, really powerful, really good, really strong heal. If they're not low health and you don't need the big heal, just use Thunder Focus Tea, Vivify. Costs no mana. It's amazing. Keep those Renewing Mist out, and yeah, that's pretty much it for healing. If you have any more questions about it, let me know. Fallen Order is by far my favorite Covenant ability in the game. So. Don't waste it. 3-minute cooldown. I think it costs 2% mana or 2% of our base mana, something like that. Oh, it's only 1,000 mana, which is nice. So, yeah, that should be it for healing. Now I touched on it briefly, but I do get questions about how to conserve mana, and there's three things you can do to conserve mana. The first one is avoid taking damage. That is the number one thing for Mistweavers. Is to avoid as much damage as you can. If you're taking damage, use your healing elixirs to heal yourself, because again, they cost no mana. And if you do need to use mana, use Thunder Focus Tea and Vivify. That's number 2. Use your Vivifies with Thunder Focus Tea to conserve as much mana as you can. So again, with the focused Thunder talent, you could use Soothing Mist, Thunder Focus Tea, Vivify, no mana, and your teammate will probably be topped. And then the third thing is plan ahead. because Mana Tea, again, off the GCD, minute and a half cooldown, reduces all the mana of your spells by 50%. So if you know you're going to be using Enveloping Mist soon, or you know you have to, use that Mana Tea and then use Enveloping Mist, one or two of them, to make it worth it. So again, very important to use your Mana Tea, Thunder Focus Tea with Vivifies, and just avoid as much damage as you can. And that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, please let me know. They haven't made any changes, so I'm going to unlist all of my other guides, and this one should be the go-to for Mistweaver as far as Season 1. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a fantastic rest of your day. See you later.